Can a person who believes in God as the creator also accept evolution and abiogenesis? This is an important question, so let's explore it. Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you all. There is a discussion in the community of people who believe in God and in the Muslim community about whether believing in abiogenesis and evolution is consistent with religion or not. So now, apart from the scientific question, which in many episodes I have addressed, that evolution is a theory that has no supporting evidence to its claims, let's now look at the theological question. So let's go to the Quran and see how those questions are addressed in the Quran. We'll give little examples and we will extend this further even according to your comments and to your reactions to this video. So for example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says,
أَوَلَمْ يَرَوْا كَيْفَ يُبْدِئُ اللَّهُ الْخَلْقَ ثُمَّ يُعِيدُهُ إِنَّ ذَلِكَ عَلَى اللَّهِ يَسِيرٌ.
Haven't they seen how Allah starts the creation and then repeats it? This is indeed easy for Allah. So here, this ayah, we can see that it's talking about the start of the creation. And since he is saying
يُبْدِئُ الْخَلْقَ ثُمَّ يُعِيدُهُ,
starts the creation and then repeats it, he is talking about creating life and then resurrecting life. So this ayah points us to the fact that if we look at the beginning of life, this should be evidence for us to find God. How will you find God when you look at the beginning of life? You will find God by looking at the beginning of life by doing the scientific research that will affirm to you that this starting of life on earth or in this material universe could not have been but an act of God, meaning that it cannot be properly explained by methodological naturalism or by a backdrop of philosophical naturalism that essentially expects every single event in the material universe to be explained by material events. And this is why the origins of life research will over and over and over again reach a dead end and be dead in its tracks. Because it is philosophically not possible even to imagine that through sheer chance, given our over and over getting more enhanced understanding of the complexity of life, that this is just some dead chemicals that had no life at all, that has come together to self-organize and produce the huge complexity even in the simplest cells. So this ayah says, it's asking a question. Haven't they seen that God starts the creation? And this will take you to the point, the belief that he can repeat what he is doing. Now, let's take the antithesis of this. Let's take the counter-hypothesis. If it is possible for us to go to the origin of life and find that the origin of life was so simple, because in the lab we put chemicals that are inert, that are not biological, that are just minerals and salts and metals, and just leave them and they would react and suddenly we have a cell, like the origins of life researchers were hoping to find. Now, God, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this ayah, makes a similarity between starting the creation and repeating the creation. So repeating the creation is resurrection, right? So if you have reached the point of confirming that abiogenesis, or the creation of life from non-life, is explainable by material processes, that chemicals have polymerized and formed organic materials that put together chains or metabolism, and then cell membranes formed by sheer coincidence, etc., and all this unbelievable story, then in this ayah God says that the way he started the creation is the way that he is going to repeat the creation. So is it part of the Islamic doctrine that on Judgment Day, on Yawm al-Qiyamah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will just order life to return to the beings, to the humans and to the beasts, and everybody goes to Judgment Day? Or he says, we will order mutations and we will order chemical evolution to form, single cells, and it will then evolve until we reach apes that will evolve into humans, and then, wow, humans are back again, and they are the same humans? This is definitely not the story. The story is that he will immediately order people to regerminate from the soil and immediately come back as humans with their very individuality. So just by looking at this one ayah, which makes a clear similarity between the start of the creation and the repetition of the creation, we understand the mechanisms are similar. It is kun fayakun. It is God's command for life to occur, and hence life occurs. And then we look at something else. الذي أعطى كل شيء خلقه ثم هدى. The one who has given to each thing its creation and then guided. So God does not just give creation, give the order for creation and then disengage. No. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us that He never disengages from His creation. Whether to guide them through their life or even to guide the change of His creation. Whether by putting in mechanisms that are not random. Because guides means a complete exclusion of randomness from the aspect of progress of life. So let's now look at evolution. So the very aspect of evolution, if we even as theists confirm together and accept that life has started by a command from God, we still cannot accept that life will progress from single unicellular very simple organisms into more complicated organisms, into multicellular organisms, into animals and plants, into human beings, just by random chance. And it is not an excuse to say that actually we will accept evolution because we will say that random is actually guided. Because it is a basic thing in philosophy that you cannot accept the thing and its direct contradiction. Otherwise, you are not rational, you are not reasonable, you are not logical. You are not philosophically correct. You cannot say, I accept the theory of evolution, which insists very strongly that there is nothing that is guiding the mutational process. It's only natural selection, which is completely a blind process, and still say Allah is guiding it. If you want to put together a theory where God is guiding, you cannot call this theory the theory of evolution, because this name is reserved already. You cannot call it modern synthesis. You cannot call it extended modern evolutionary synthesis. You cannot call it Darwinian evolution. You cannot call it neo-Darwinian evolution. You cannot use any of those terms, because all of those terms have in the core of their philosophical background that these are a series of events that are happening by chance, with completely no guidance, without any intent, without any design, without any purpose, without any end in mind, full stop. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, سنريهم آياتنا في الآفاق وفي أنفسهم حتى يتبين لهم أنه الحق. We will show them our signs in the horizons and within themselves until it is clear, until it is evident to them that it is the truth. So He is pointing us to two fields. Look in the horizons. The horizon is the end of your vision. So at the very frontier of our knowledge, at the very frontier of what we can see, at the very horizon of science, we will have to reach an end point where methodological naturalism does not work. If we look into ourselves, into biology, into how our bodies are working, we have to reach a point where methodological naturalism will not work. Where the explanation for the origins, for example, of the universe and the origins of life will be clear evidence that it is the truth that God is the creator. That it is the truth that this world did not come by chance. That it is the truth that the other ayah that says, أَمْ خُلِقُوا مِنْ غَيْرِ شَيْءٍ أَمْ هُمُ الْخَالِقُونَ, is a truthful ayah. Or have they been created out of nothing, or are they the creators? So there is no simulation hypothesis in Islam. There is no nothingness coming into somethingness in Islam. There is no chance and no intent providing purposeful or apparent design. There is no teleonomy. There is only teleology. There is only putting end in mind while creation. There is only purposeful design, and this is the hallmark and the fingerprint that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has left in His creation, and that is exactly why He says, إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاءُ. Surely, those who fear God of His servants are the scientists. Why? Because they will, through their research, at the frontier of the human knowledge, find that methodological naturalism that is spawned from philosophical naturalism, the idea that nature is self-explanatory and self-sufficient to explain itself, fails. And that if you take a very first sip from the cup of science, you might be intoxicated by a Dunning-Kruger effect that you know. But the more you will drink, by the time you will reach the end of the cup, you will reach to the reckoning and to the understanding that this is a universe created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that as a scientist, if you get rid of your pride, if you get rid of your prejudice, if you get rid of your bias and stop using science as a way of self-affirmation to the extent that you force and twist mathematics and imaginary models to give you false confirmation of beliefs of self-sufficiency of nature, once you are unbiased and fair to your research, you will have to resolve to the fact of سنريهم آياتنا في الآفاق وفي أنفسهم حتى يتبين لهم أنه الحق. We'll surely show them our signs in the horizons and within themselves until it is evident to them that it is the truth. And since we are here to find the truth, I urge you all to set aside this discussion of trying to justify a false theory by twisting the truth of Islam and religion to match it, under the fear of being called unscientific. Peace be upon you. See you again soon. Give me your comments in the comment section, and we will be having more discussions about this topic at the end of the evolutionary course. Is evolution true or false? That I urge you all to subscribe to. Assalamu alaikum.